Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio. We are brought to you by championnews.net. We are your choice for the conservative voice here every Sunday at 8 a.m. This is Ann Parisi. Our founder, Jack Roser, and myself have two special guests with us, Michael Carbone and Warner Todd Huston. And Michael, before the break, you were just talking just so practically. You got to identify the problem to find the solution. So let's regroup. What's the problem again? I mean, just our education system. Our kids need a good education. Teachers need to be paid.
Right. Well, obviously the first problem is there's laws, and there's labor laws that protect employers or employees in this instance, and that's one of the first things I've identified going through collective bargaining. We have the right to organize and assemble, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, and that's fine. But when you have laws that protect an employee in the sense of allowing folks to have leverage to, let's say, strike, in an instance for a school or a teachers' union, you have to ask yourself, how do you justify to allow someone to be able to do that when there's people that are affected, let alone taxpayers, students, okay? As I said before, police and fire are not allowed to strike. Why? You can say public safety. I can say the same thing for our students.
It is public safety. They're public servants. Their public sector means public servants. Mm-hmm. So if you were to take a very liberal, you're not benefiting the collective. I mean, if you take them by their own standards of we have to benefit the collective, their striking by their own standards is the antithesis to benefiting the collective.
You're using nice words that socialists like,
but how
the collective.
But you know what? You know what? The way to reach out to these people is perhaps talk to them in their own language. If you spoke French, I wouldn't understand you.
Let's get back to the broader problem. But you're right when you start using words like that, because it is rapidly turning into a government-run thing. Look at the school system. It's a single-payer system. Mm-hmm. Are we hearing that word? Why is it a single-payer system? Because there's no market operating. There is a single payer. It's the government on top that's paying all of the costs of your kids going to school. You, in turn, are pushed by, you have nothing further to say about the process, but you got to pay for it. So you pay into the single-payer system, and the guy at the top runs it. Now, a single payer isn't a good thing because it puts a bunch of government people in between your money and the service you're buying. Maybe the government should select the car you get and the soup you eat and the house you live in, and you shouldn't have any say-so on that, and let the single buyer up there give you socialism, which is another big single buyer system. But, yeah, how about that? Mm-hmm. So you want to get rid of the single buyer, but this clever socialist president that we've now got wants to give you a single payer system for all of your health. That's what his health system is. And it's going to be about as efficient as a stinking, rotten, expensive, budget-busting education system.
Well, and then, of course, the big problem with that is, as you said, there's no market involved, so there's no accountability. We can't fire so many of these teachers. They're here forever, regardless of how good or bad they are. And again, that is antithetical to good education.
There are a lot of good teachers that have integrity that makes it work at all, but take off.
And Jack, you make a really good point, because here's the thing. You take your laborers, and they want to strike. They're going to go strike that business. It affects the business. That's some deal that they made between them and that business. There was a choice that was given to them. Here in a school, there is no choice. Mm-hmm. And going back to, and I don't want to kind of get off ahead of myself,
but how about Tootsie Roll? They went on strike, and people that make the Tootsie Rolls, not a necessity of life, but a nice business that gave them jobs. And they said, we've had enough of this wrestling. We're just not going to make any more Tootsie Rolls.
But is it Tootsie Rolls or Twinkies?
Twinkies.
Right.
Twinkies.
But you're affecting, I don't want to say a few folks, but rather than a whole community. There's a big difference. When you're affecting 10,000 people or 4,000 students, it's a big difference than 30 employees or one business owner where there's a choice there.
So they're doing harm to the greater good.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And what I said earlier, and like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I like to bring this point up because there is a solution. There's a solution for this. And we call it, and again, it comes down to communication and education. It's called school choice. It's the choice to choose where you want to put your child into that school. So leave unions where they may be in their labor laws that are happening in Springfield. But if I knew my school was going to go strike and affect my child or affect me, my pocket for a week or two or however, then let me choose where I can put my child at a school. Maybe it has a different type of form of education, and let them go strike.
A choice.
Because maybe the school won't strike.
That was all highlighted very well in the documentary Waiting for Superman.
Yes.
I suggest everyone out there go and get that DVD and watch that movie.
It's probably at your local library, which your taxpayer dollars paid for, so you could rent it and get it for a few days for nothing. Michael, I want to ask you a question, though. Since 2003, both chambers of the General Assembly and the governor's seat have been by Democrats. Are Democrats for school choice, and how many are?
There's been, and I know Jack's been a big advocate of this, there's been attempts around the state, and they call them charter schools, which is a choice.